Amendment 176. Baroness Hollins.
I rise to move Amendment 176, which proposes that guidance should be published on how training in learning disability and autism will become mandatory for all health and social care staff. The amendment has been altered from earlier stages to address concerns raised by the Minister and officials both in committee and in discussions following committee. And I'm grateful to the Bill team, to Department of Health and Social Care officials, to MENCAP, to noble lords who are supporting this amendment. The unacceptable health inequalities which have been worse during the pandemic that many people with learning disabilities and autism face have been reported numerous times. I'm not going to repeat those here. And nor will I repeat the circumstances of Oliver McGowan's tragic death. His parents have been powerful advocates of mandatory training and persuaded Her Majesty's Government to commit to introducing mandatory training. Her Majesty's Government conducted a consultation and an ambitious pilot of the Oliver McGowan mandatory training, and the evaluation is due any day. This amendment goes a step further because it puts on statute a policy that the Government has committed to undertake. It creates a code of practice which would consult on and set out how training will be scaled up across the country. And the code provides a number of advantages compared to simply amending the Health and Social Care Act of 2008. It intends that co-production and co-delivery is embedded from the start. And this is achieved through a requirement for the Secretary of State to consult with relevant persons in preparing the code and regularly revising the code in the light of outcomes. These relevant persons must include those with lived experience. My Lords, co-production and co-delivery should be uncontroversial, but campaigners are still having to fight for this. One of the concerns put to me is whether in fact there are enough experts by experience to contribute to training which would be provided to all health and care professionals. I told my son, who has a learning disability, this morning about tonight's debate. He said he wanted other people to have the same opportunity he has had to be able to train the staff in his GP practice. But training for trainers, of course, would be needed. And so many people with learning disabilities and so many autistic people are keen to have work, and yet the work opportunities are not there. Here is a brilliant work opportunity. The amendment will require the Secretary of State to lay before this House and the other place the findings of a regular review of the code, which will be needed to ensure accountability and scrutiny and help shape any revisions or changes required in the light of improvements or otherwise of the health and care outcomes for this group of people. Accepting the amendment would be a wonderful signal to campaigners, including Oliver's parents, Paula and Tom McGowan, that the government's promises will be honoured sooner rather than later. I urge the Minister to accept the amendment.
Hear, hear.
Amendment proposed. Insert the new clause printed in the Marshall list.
My Lords, it may be convenient for the House if I clarify the Government's position on the amendment at this stage. My Lords, I'm grateful to the Noble Baroness for bringing her amendment before the House today on the important matter of mandatory training on learning disability and autism for the health and social care workforce. And I'd like to pay tribute to the work that she has done in this area. The Government recognises that mandatory training on learning disability and autism will support the health and social care workforce to improve the quality of care and support provided to people with a learning disability and autistic people, thereby improving health and wellbeing outcomes. And we remain committed to improving the lives of people with a learning disability and autistic people. And that is why we invested £1.4 million to develop, test and trial the Oliver McGowan mandatory training with over 8,000 people in 2021. This will help to ensure that the training rolled out is meaningful and impactful. And it's with great thanks to the Noble Baroness Hollins for her determination and her collaborative work with the Government that I am very pleased to say that the Government would like to support the amendment put forward to introduce mandatory training on learning disability and autism. While we are keen to support this amendment, we will be proposing to make some changes to ensure it is fully workable and fits into the legal framework. It is likely such changes will be introduced at the Commons consideration of Lord's amendment stage. We have discussed this with the Noble Baroness, and we will ensure that we keep her fully updated with our proposals in this space. We hope that this commitment today sends a strong signal to people with a learning disability and autistic people and their family and carers that the government is committed to addressing the significant and persistent health disparities they face. I could not make this announcement today without a special mention and thanks to Paula and Tom McGowan, who campaigned tirelessly for this very cause. The resilience and commitment both they and Baroness Hollins have shown has been inspiring, and they should be proud of all that they have achieved for Oliver and for others whose lives have sadly been cut short. To further emphasise the government's commitment to instilling real change for people with a learning disability and autism, I would like to confirm our intention that all integrated care boards should have a named learning disabilities and autism lead, and that NHS England proposes to issue statutory guidance on this matter to assist integrated care boards. The government is supportive of this approach and believes that learning disability and autism leads on every ICB would act as a voice for those with a learning disability and autism in commissioning decisions. I commend this amendment to the House.
I welcome the Minister's statement. I'm sure it really is very welcome, and declare an interest as the Vice President of the National Autistic Society. And can I also thank the Noble Lady Baroness Hollins for her dedication, her commitment and sheer endurance in pressing this matter of ensuring that those who are supporting people with learning disabilities and autism are well trained. Training that is essential if we're to help young people in particular experience the kind of life that all of us in this chamber take for granted. With the right support, young people with learning disabilities and autism can enjoy that quality of life. And I don't intend, my Lords, to detain the House but for a few minutes, and to just share with the colleagues some experiences I've had of young people who have actually succeeded because they've had that right support. I met an 11-year-old boy at a special school, and he had learning difficulties. When I met him, he said, "You've heard I've got learning difficulties?" I said, "Yes." "My brother has too," he said. "He's 5, he's got autism. I'm helping my mother help him." I said, "That's good." "I'm off to comprehensive school." I said, "That's good. You're looking forward to it?" "Yes," he said. "And I've decided on my career." I said, "What are you going to be?" "I'm going to be a High Court judge. And I can tell you now, if you come up before me, you'll get a lenient sentence." The point, my Lord, is that the school had really worked hard, but they said to me, the head, he worked hard too at overcoming these problems. Max, I met at a joint meeting of the All-Party Group on Autism and the All-Party Group on Apprenticeship, chaired by the late Dave Shell Gillen, who pioneered the Autism Bill. And Max worked for a housing association, and when I went there, I could see how he was hugely supported, as he had been as a youngster, but hugely supported in this job by his colleagues. At that time, Max was an amateur actor and had appeared on the Victoria Derbyshire show. That was then, my Lords. Now he is an actor, he's a producer, he's a public speaker, he's an ambassador for the National Autistic Society and a recipient of the Princess Diana Award, awarded to change makers for their generation. That's the success he's had because he had the right support. And finally, my Lords, Louise. I've not met Louise, I've just talked to her. Louise had some difficult times early in her life. "You don't look autistic," somebody once said to her. She said she was often humiliated by her teachers and those in authority, and when she tried to work, she had meltdowns and couldn't cope. She got her first job, my Lords, in her mid-40s. She's now working for a charity supporting people with autism, and she said to me, "Now I'm given the space and they let me lead and I can flourish. I'm helping other autistic people improve their lives." With the right support, the quality of life has been given to that woman now in her 40s. My point is simple. Given the right support and encouragement, people with learning disabilities and autism can have the same quality of life that we all in this chamber would expect for ourselves and our families. I welcome the government's decision to support this. There's still much work to do, but it's going the right way, and thank the government, and especially thank Baroness Hollins for really pioneering the work that we're talking about this evening.
Well done.
My Lords, I want to first of all congratulate the Noble Lady Baroness Hollins on bringing forward such a wise and sensible amendment which follows a series of failings in the healthcare system, failings which could potentially have been prevented if health and social care staff had actually had the proper training to meet the particular needs of those with autism and learning disabilities. My Lords, I consider that this amendment is one that is about fairness, in order that those with autism and learning disabilities may be treated as anybody may be expected to be treated. And I would like to thank the Noble Lady, the Minister, for her very positive response, and to thank her and her team for working so closely with the Noble Lady Baroness Hollins and others to achieve the training of the relevant staff and indeed ensuring a voice on integrated care boards. This is a fitting and lasting tribute to the memory of Oliver McGowan, and I'm sure it will always be regarded as such.
My Lords, I'm very grateful, and I know that Paula and Tom McGowan will also be very grateful, as will many people with learning disabilities and autistic people, to the Noble Lady, the Minister, and to all those working behind the scenes to reach this point and to accept my amendment. And also, of course, to commit to include a learning disability and autism lead on integrated care boards. I understand that some small changes may be proposed to ensure workability, and I'm looking forward to working with the Bill team and with the Department of Health and Social Care officials to ensure these changes further strengthen the intention behind Amendment 176. I thank Noble Lords for their support, and I beg leave to withdraw my amendment. No.
Beg to move.
I beg to move my amendment.
Is it your Lordship's pleasure that Amendment 176 be agreed to? As many as are of that opinion will say content. Content. The contrary not content. The contents have it.